Hello everyone, my name is Diego Vega and today I am going to be presenting about the MVVM pattern. Well, first of all, what is MVVM? MVVM stands for Model, View, View Model. It is a new software architectural pattern that was derived from MVC, which we have heard a little bit in class, and from the presentation model design pattern. It was developed by Microsoft architects Ken Cooper and Ted Peters specifically to simplify event-driven programming of user interfaces. This pattern facilitates the separation of development of the graphical user interface from development of the business logic or back-end logic. So what's new about this MVVM pattern? Well, it replaced the controller of the MVC pattern and the presenter of the MVP pattern with a binder, also known or referred to as a view model. And why? Well, this facilitates the separation of a view layer development from the rest of the pattern. Now the model and the framework drive almost all the operations. This pattern uses the binder, view model, and any business layer's data checking features to validate incoming data. The result is that the model and framework drive as much of the operations as possible, eliminating or minimizing application logic. For example, code behind. Now let's talk about each part of this pattern. First of all, the model. The model represents the actual data and information that we're dealing with. It holds the information, but not the behaviors or services that manipulate this. It is not responsible for formatting text to look pretty on the screen or fetching a list of items from our remote server. In this small example, in the bottom of the screen, we can see that for the class book, our model has only 4 fields, and those 4 fields have only setters and getters. That's it, just container for the information. Now we move on to the next element, the view. The view is what most of us are familiar with, and the only thing that the user really interacts with. It is the presentation of the data. The view takes certain liberties to make this data more presentable. For example, a date might be stored on the model as a number of seconds since midnight on January 1st, 1970. To the end user, however, it is presented with the month name, date, and year in the local time zone. A view can also have behaviors associated with it, such as accepting the user input. The view handles its own user interface events and then maps them to the view model via commands. In this bottom example, we can see how it takes some of the user interface elements like the text block or the text, and it assigns the information from the model to it. Now let's talk about the view model. It is an interface between the model and the view. It's nothing else than a value converter. For example, instead of making the model aware of the user's view of a date, the model holds data, the view holds the formatted date, and the view model acts as a liaison between the two. It is important to know that the view model replaces the controller of the MVC pattern or the presenter of the MVP pattern. MVVM has also a binder, which we will define in a second. Fortunately, in the pattern we're using, the binder is implicit. As a developer, it will save you from having to write the logic to keep the view model and the view synchronized. As we can see in the short example, two-way data binding is what keeps the model and the properties on the view model updated. Now that we've defined our main elements, it is important to say what MVVM is not. It is not a complete framework. However, it is a pattern and can be part of one. MVVM is not your server client. Also, MVVM is not a graphic user interface guide. It does not have rules on how to implement your view. It is mainly just a guide on how to structure your code and divide it into different layers. This is using C#. If we run, it shows this small form. This is the classes I'm taking, the hours, and GPA. I hope to get in these classes. So as we can see, there's all these 3 different items on the screen with the same information, the class name here, and class name here. So what I want to show here is data binding. So if I click on one of these, it selects and shows it on all the other ones. Another data binding here form, you can actually see the code here, get the information from that text property, and show it as well. So I'm gonna here go ahead and change this. If I add, I don't know, I342, sorry, and I add that class. It adds that class, adds it here as well. That information, once you click on it, it goes on to another layer of this pattern. So I'm gonna start again. It's MVVM, so model is the first one. I'm gonna show you guys what a class in the model looks like. So as I said in the previous example, class name, just a getter and setter, as simple as that. Hours and GPA. Get, you return the class name. It's just here being divided. That's how it's recommended to use. So now let's go over the view. So you've seen it before. It's just a basic window. Again, there's nothing really special about it. Again, it's just C# code, mostly drag and drop, and then here in XAML, it's where all the data binding is happening. So we're pretty much just saying, it says it's binding text property 1, which is coming from the text box. So whatever gets added in here, it's being binded between this line here in the text box and this line here in the text block. So all the changes are gonna be like made automatically. And as soon as you click on the button, all those changes, the class name is gonna go straight to this list here and the drop menu here as well. I think that's something really useful. Data binding here in MVVM, in the MVVM pattern, makes it really easy to modify windows. You don't really have to worry about how things are working. You just state that these two things are going to change at the same time. So now it's time to look on the view model. The view communicates to the model through the view model. That's really straightforward. And here what's going on is when you say add user, when the user interface triggers this event right here, it's going to check if it's empty, nothing happens. But then if there's something in there, it's going to take that information, pass it to the class name and the hours. That's just how I define it. And GPA is going to be by default 4. Then you can edit it, and that's being sent to class. That's how it communicates. A view triggers an event and sends it as a command to the view model. The view model receives it and does the proper modification of the information. Either if you want to format it, I could add some special formatting, and the view has nothing to do with it. It's the view model that's the transition between the view and the model. And that would be all for me. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helped you understand the MVV pattern better. Have a nice day.